Welcome, everyone. Now we will have another session with Nok. Nok is a researcher and at the Center for Social Development Studies at the Chulalongkorn University in Thailand. I hope I'm not pronouncing this horribly wrong. And Nok will share with us about a foresight reflexive matrix. So I just would like to, before handing it over to you, Nog, to say to those who are joining now that this is an event that is part of a 24-hour takeover called Women Who Futures. We still have many sessions to go today, so I'm gonna put the link with the program in the chat again if you want to register for other events later today. And with that, thank you so much, Nok, for being here, for accepting our invitation, and over to you.
Hello. Hi, Tay and everyone. Is it possible that I share my slide now? Is
Yes,
it okay?
absolutely. Yes, yes, I will share.
So yes, so first of all, thank you for the invitation to join this amazing session with so many amazing women in the room. And again, my name is Boonmavichit, and I'm based in Bangkok, Thailand right now. It's about 3 p.m. 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon, and I've prepared this slide to kind of like share it with you about my research and also to have a little bit of some personal reflection. And before we begin, let us have a moment to kind of someone is okay.
You can take
Let
it
us
like
have
that,
a
Nok.
moment to be together. So I want this session to be like very relaxed as much as possible. And it's actually more about us connecting with ourselves and also to connect with our past, to reflect on our present, and to also have a kind of uh, look into the future. So let us begin with a moment of togetherness by maybe we have a few breaths together. So just simply breathe, just be aware of your in breath and out breath. And this is kind of like the practice that we do at the Plum Village when we kind of want to ground ourselves before we begin. All right. Thank you for that. Um, yeah, so basically I would like to invite all of you to kind of like actually be aware of ourselves through this session, especially how we feel. It could be our feeling in terms of like the sensation on our body or kind of like any thoughts that come to our mind. And I would like to invite you to also have a notepad and a pen with you so that you can make note along the way. And if you need to take a moment to grab that, please do it so now. And I will slowly introduce the session by giving the outline. So we have 5 parts in this session. I would like to start with the story of a baby sparrow, and then I will introduce the reflexive foresight and the concept and its kind of concept and also the tool. And then I will share with you kind of my research with the indigenous group back in the northern part of Thailand. And then we will have a little bit of exercise on our personal futures. And then at the end, we can share with each other in the breakout room that Taze will prepare for us. And I think it should be maybe one-on-one, like so each group will compose with of 2 people. Thank you, Tay. All right. Okay. So that's it. So a note and a pen and a piece of paper for reflection, please. Because this piece of paper, I would like you to keep, and maybe one day you look at it and then you can maybe have a reference of, what you feel about what had happened today. So let us begin with the story. So this is a really beautiful children's story. of a baby sparrow. And please don't mind the Thai script, but I will translate to you in English. Yeah. So this is the kind of the parents of the sparrow. They are together and they're starting a family. So they're building their nest, preparing for the baby to come. And one day when the baby is ready, like she came out, and then she looks so cute, in pink without any hair. And the baby just sit in the nest all day and just wait there. And then the parents will just feed them with worms. But the parents, of course, have the dreams for the babies to be the best of a bird can be. And then, so the mother has a big, big dream that, okay, well, perfect. The baby bird, you do not have any feather yet. So let me bring to you the most beautiful peacock feather so that you would grow up to be such a beautiful bird. And then the father said, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't have a feather now. Why don't I bring you some seagull feather so you can fly as high as a bird can be, as a bird can do. And then the birds started to grow, and then the bird also grow the feather, right? Its own feather. But then the mother would pluck it out and put the peacock feather on it instead. So the bird grew up with the peacock feather and with the seagull feather on the body. And then when the bird started to sing, then the father said, "No, no, 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 no! Don't sing like a sparrow. You should sing like a seagull. And so sing. So follow me. This is how you sing." And then the bird has to repeat him, right? Ah, and then when the bird grow up, and the bird looks exactly like what the parents want to be with the kind of feather that they have put in the bird. But when the bird started to fly, right away it fell. And then the parents were really angry and they blamed the baby bird. Oh, how much work we have to do to collect all those feathers. How is it that you don't turn out the way we wished you to be? The baby bird was so sad and so desperate, and she had to just stay away, just stay by herself, and then and to let those feather grow out, and then one day her real feather came out. And then after a winter, then the sparrow became a full sparrow, a true sparrow with brown feather, short feather, but and sing like a sparrow. And then, but then it was able to be free in the golden rice field. So this story, I just want to kind of like capture like how a lot of times what has influenced our desirable futures are pretty much our family, education, community, and now maybe social media and also close friends. So I'd like you to kind of write a note on who has the most impact on on your desirable futures. We'll have like maybe a few maybe 1 minute to take the note. Next question is, how do you feel about the story? What resonates with you, and what kind of futures have you, if you have, what kind of futures have you given up? And if you like, please put that, please share it in the chat, and also take the note to yourself if you can. And also, yeah. And after you write about your past, you can also think about your future, about what do you really care about and what kind of person you want to be. That might be different from how your society or your family had expected you to be, right? And then now we're gonna dive into the reflexive foresight. Um, So why is it that I put this kind of together? Because in the beginning, the reflexive foresight actually was based on my kind of research for social change. But I've discovered that as um, I see the problem of the society or the social problems, I've noticed that a lot of times it has to do with our own concept of what kind of world we want to create. And that's why I think that it's very important for us to have that reflection of whether that world or whether that futures that we want to have still still really captures what we care about. And that's why I adapted that kind of social aspect to the inner aspect. So bear with me, but I hope that I'll be able to make sense of this and to share with you how I have come along or developed this kind of concept for personal futures. So let's begin with a little bit of the concept of what society is like. So basically, society, like in the tradition that I grew up in, kind of composed of the three factors: structure, culture, and agency. Right? Structure is pretty much, the rules and regulation that we or the institution that we have. Uh, that we have been born into. Let's say that I was born in Thailand. I was born in a Buddhism country, in a country with monarchy system, in a country with democracy, you know, and then the culture that we have is very is a kind of agricultural culture. And I grew up in a kind of Chinese Thai family, so I have both Thai and Chinese tradition that was kind of like passed down onto me. And the agencies is how I make sense of this structure and culture. So basically, if you notice the narrow, you would see that each domain can accept or reject the kind of the structure that have been imposed to us. So basically, if you look at agency has the kind of restraint of like the structural and cultural barrier for them to have the freedom to act. However, agency also have that power to reflect, so that if some structural and cultural don't make sense, like we can try to change it somehow. And even though we cannot have like entire change of the entire structure, but we might be able to act within our own capacity to create a change into the future. And this works in each kind of domain the same way. Even culture also can impact structure, and then vice versa. And but in order, so if we just leave it like this and we don't really intervene, then it will become something called social inertia, meaning that okay, the big people or people who have the power will just dominate and will just keep on keep this cycle going the same way it is. But the agency holds the power of change. And if we want to if we want to create a change, we need to be aware of our capacity and aware of that domination of structural and cultural kind of uh, history that have been imposed to us. Next is to let you know that unfortunately, structure and culture predates agency, meaning that we are born into these things. And so a lot of times we don't really question all these contexts until we probably see something that is different, or until, so let's say, like, for example, for me, like I grew up in Thailand, and I had my education had been through the university had been all the way in Thailand, right? And then I was able to go for the master's degree in the US, and that was like an eye opening for me to a different set of cultural and structural setting. And then I started to kind of question of my of the what has been done in Thailand. But so what I'm trying to say is that a lot of times, if we don't really take the moment to think about how the setting that we grew up in, we might not be aware of that kind of domination, or that kind of like um, kind of pre-existing settings that have influenced us all this time, because these things, especially the culture, they have so much impact on our thinking, to the point that it's almost like at the subconscious level. So, and that subconscious level actually determines how we make decisions on a day-to-day basis. And if we're not aware of it, then we just let our life just ride the wave. Like we don't really make any change. Okay, so I put together this metrics in order to analyze like a social problem. And so if we look into each column, structure, structure, like if we structure, like I said, right, includes like institution, formal and informal rules and regulations. And when you look at this metrics, what I would like to invite you to do is to imagine the kind of iceberg shape, right? And the top part, the empirical, the first row is everything that we can see and we can observe. So let's say that if it's rules and regulation, yes, we probably could read up like our constitution, or we could read up like the kind of the rules that we're supposed to follow in our condo, or the rules that we're supposed to follow in the school, in our master's program or something like that. And for cultural practice, to the right is the cultural practice, and for cultural practice is more like the kind of uh, like tradition and norms, like let's say Christmas holidays, or like if in Thailand we have Songkran holiday where we um, pour water to each other, something like that. And then for agency is kind of like our body, our identity, our behavior and decisions, right? And then for the middle row is more is something under the iceberg. So it's more some it's we cannot really observe it so vividly, but it is there, and it has the power to influence um, the things that are on the above the uh, iceberg, above the iceberg, so things that we can see. But it is the trend, it is the things that are forming, that are kind of like that have the influence uh, our behavior or our decisions. And the last row is actually the real, which is the things that have the causal power, the things that determines, is really the root cause of all the things that happen in our reality. And if for the structure is probably, let's say, like the kind of ideology, political ideology, and then cultural is probably like the religious religious values, belief system. And for agency is the kind of like the individual reflection and the consciousness that we kind of make sense of the reality. And then this for this slide, if you look at the unconscious agency, this means that we feel that we have limited decisions, we cannot make any change, and we just interact and we just accept things as it is. And at the bottom is that, okay, is our psychology, do we like, and our personality, are we like the kind of person that want to challenge the norm, or are we just the person who just go with the flow, you know? But for us to create that transformation, we should be able to be aware of our conscious our unconscious kind of uh, domain in our body, like in ourselves, so that we can reflect on our inner self and what we have, how we have become who we are. So to maybe make it more understandable, I will share with you how I have applied it with the indigenous group in the northern part of Thailand. So this is the kind of the rice paddy field in the northern part of Thailand, and they are actually this is the main livelihood. This agricultural practice has been done over 100 years, and this community is able to preserve the forest in a very efficient way. What lies in this community are the kind of this Karen indigenous group, and there is a shift between the young, or to the left you see the older generation, and to the right you see the younger generation. And to make sense of this social problem of this kind of group, I interviewed the entire village. Pretty much I went to like five different types of events like marriage, cultural day, um, like family dinner. Like I talked to like as many people as possible in the village in order to capture to have a landscape of their community. And basically, I will introduce to you what happened in this is basically the people who are older, they have like they've been kind of marginalized as like a minority group, and then they're considered as the other, meaning that they're considered lower and not very educated. They don't have the Western education. They don't understand, Thai or English or anything else outside their small community. So yeah, they're not perceived very highly, pretty much. And then what had happened was that then there was this Thai German development that went into the community, and in order to help them with livelihood, so that they introduced ecotourism. And then people were starting to change from just agricultural to have the more money. And with that money, then they were able to save up and then send their children to school in the city. And then with the high hope that their children will not repeat the very difficult physical labor, they expect their children to stay in the city and to have a stable job as government officer or teachers in the city. But the younger generations do not want to be in the city. They want to come home, because coming home, because working in the office is like they have office burnout. They don't like to, there's also politics, and they would rather be back in the mountain with their parents and in the nature. I think that this is also the trend that is shifting in the younger generation. However, what they had faced is actually being home they are questioned by the community that they cannot make it in the city. That's why they return home. So their parents feel embarrassed that, okay, my God, like I've done so much work in order to put you there, and then you don't listen and you just come back home. Like it's embarrassing for us, and it's embarrassing for when the community question, that if you have a good opportunity, why are you not staying in the city? So this is kind of like the very the tension that had happened. And in order to make sense of this, then like I created a foresight kind of a futures literacy workshop for them to have a discussion about their futures outlook. And then they were able to create like some strategy that work well for them for as a community to kind of like tap into their it's called cultural capital, and then they can focus on creating a livelihood based on the culture, which will allow the younger generation to be back home, to be with the family, and not to and to earn like good income, and then they won't be kind of looked down upon by the community. And that's kind of why I think that it's quite a powerful way to capture what is going on in the society. And for us, if we want to uh, imagine about our future, we also have to manage the balance between especially in Asia, you know, where we're our relationship with the family is very, very tight. We have to have a good balance between our own future and also the expectation of our kind of family. All right. So now what I would like to ask you, and in your note, you might want to write down if whether or not you have experienced some similar story about this disparity in futures outlook. It could be within your family or with your close friends or even like your school classmates and stuff like that. And then what had happened, and then how has it impacted you today? So with the pen and paper, I'd like you to take a moment to write it down. Okay. And now I would like to guide you through the personal foresight. So basically applying the same reflexive metrics to yourself. So we're gonna go one by one, starting with the structure first, because structure is actually the kind of like the largest and the most powerful in our kind of being. So let's start with the yeah. So the first one is so so the first column is the explanation of the structure, right? And then example, and then your note is actually I would like to invite you to kind of write down your own kind of that is personal to you, right? And then we will share it with our partners at the end of this session. So yeah, the first one is the rules, institution, system, and laws that influence how your society runs, right? For example, like modern education, community-based tourism, district office, health center, solar cell. This is mainly for the indigenous group. And then the second one is actually the transition or the trend that is happening, what it is kind of like uh, forming that you see that is going to have the impact. So for the, let's say for the indigenous group, it's like the provincial supervision over self-governance, because they were having, they were already transitioned between the self-governance, the central government is starting to send the people in. And then let's say, and then they also started to have coffee farming, which has a potential to offer the new livelihood for them. And then they had internet access that offers market opportunity for them. And then actually the deep structure that is impacting the society, and especially our society that we're living in now, is basically the modernity and capitalism. But this might be different in your case, because if you have something that is more specific to your situation at this point, then you could write something that is more relevant to your own case. Okay. Then the next one is culture. So basically, yeah, kind of like the tradition. The first row is actually the tradition, the kind of cultural practice that you have in your own community. The second one is actually some tension or something, some formation of the trend that you see. Let's say that in this indigenous community is actually there's a conflict of the LGBT group because it's not accepted in the community. And then let's say that those people who belong to that group, they don't feel comfortable being up there. So they would rather stay in the city instead of returning home. So, that kind of creates some kind of tension within the family. And then, and also like we are noticing that, okay, we're seeing that the family relationship that is shifting. Before there was very close, the grandparents are close to the grandchildren. The grandparents would sing to them lullabies, and now the children play on the video game or mobile phone until they go to bed, so that shift is happening. So, and actually, the root cause is actually the minority paradox. They cannot, there's so much tension that is going on, and they can't really like figure out like a good way to kind of live in the best of the both world. And there's that cultural tension that are happening in between the old and the new. So take a moment to write down if you feel that there's a certain culture that kind of impact who you are. And I rehearsed this with two friends last night, and one is Romanian and one is Italian, and it's very interesting how they like the answers, their answers are so different. It's really interesting. Okay, we're gonna move on to the last one, which is agency. This is kind of like the first one, the first row, the empirical is actually our decisions, our kind of like how we go about our days, yeah. And then the second one is actually the kind of uh oh, sorry, oops, yeah, the kind of things that are changing in our behavior. Yeah, that we're seeing that we're change, that is kind of like, yeah, we're inclined to like this type, and then but we have not been able to make a jump or take a step in that direction yet. And the last one is actually, really want you to reflect on what is actually influencing our kind of future, our image, our this desirable image of the future. Is it that modern lifestyle? Is it is it, consumerism? What is it that is driving our choice today? It could be a choice in our career. It could be a choice in the people that we hang out with. It could be a choice on what kind of transportation we take. This last part is actually the most difficult because it's unconscious, and if it's unconscious means that we're not aware of it. So even today we can think about it just for a little bit. It actually just maybe just kind of like a tap on a shoulder that, okay, I'm drawing the attention, but if you want to really really look deeply into this, I would like you to kind of like take it back with you over time, and maybe take a like maybe take a look at it later when you have time. Come back to it when you have time. Okay. So next is, yeah, I would like to invite you to imagine your future in 10 years from now. Imagine yourself in a normal day. What does your day look like? What kind of person you would like to be, and how do you feel? My question actually, instead of asking you to imagine like a fixed image of a future, I would like to draw your attention to the kind of to the question of what kind of person you would like to be. Because sometimes I think that I feel that because sometimes that image of the future, if it's a fixed image, and then we work so hard to get to that image, but we actually forget why we want to be to have that to reach that goal in the first place. We forgot the why, and actually the why is more important than the what. So if you have that in mind, that kind of like, then your future is not like a fixed image, but it's more like a north star that you walk towards. It's not a fixed place that you have to arrive in, but as long as you have that why, then you have accomplished that goal. That's how I feel. So now we're gonna have is Tay ready? Are we ready for the
Yes.
breakout room? We can have a discussion on on this session, and the yeah, and the question I would like you to kind of discuss with your partners are, what have you learned about yourself? How do these reflections shape your visions? Oops, sorry, your visions for your future, and then how would you apply the reflection today to a more just, inclusive, and transformative future for yourself and others? All right.
Would 10
We'll
minutes
see
be?
you back in 10 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
Was the sharing? I see a lot of smiles. So I hope that was fun sharing for you all. Um, may I invite some of you to, if you'd like to share what had happened in your own circle?
Well, something that was very fun that happened is that I ended up in a group with Ursula, who is my mom. And so it was very lovely talking with her about it. We were both so engaged and loved what you were talking about. Um, and we loved the story that you started with. It really, it meant a lot to us in different ways, um, because my mom, she was talking about how she's currently plucking out the feathers that her parents gave her, and I told her that she never gave me other feathers, that she always protected me to be myself. And so we were
Mm,
just reflecting on it all and very excited from everything you talked about. So it was yeah, it was delightful. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Yes.
And I'll just add on to what she said is that I'll be taking this with me, not because the work that we've been doing and understanding how story, and when we meet with people, we share a story. So the way that you shared this delightful story enabled me to really engage and let myself into the matrix, where I was exploring it almost like a childlike way, and I found myself really open to playing. And I just was so when I saw that I was with my daughter, we really I can't wait to integrate it because we're both ready to be in that future in 10 years. And I see the possibility of being there and remembering the why pretty deeply. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love that the metrics can really be a talking piece, opening up people to talk about, about things kind of like, um, not so much to kind of blame each other, but just to see it at the face value as what it is, So yeah, so thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Anyone else? And we might we would be able to end early so that people can rest before the next session. But to check out, I'm still sharing, right? To check out, I would like to invite you to maybe type in a few words of how you feel about this session, and also yeah, and also to invite you to kind of keep the reflection, and but also to be mindful that when you reflect on something, there would be a lot of emotions that come up, and 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 try not to react to that emotion yet, because it could be raw, and it might need time to kind of settle in. So wait until your mind is clear, you're calm, and you compose, and then you can make decision according to that emotion. So I really like to thank all of you to join me today, and hope you have a lovely next few sessions. Thank you. And feel free to reach out if you'd like to. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I hope you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nok. Nice words here in the chat. Feeling grateful, reflexive, curious, refreshed, hopeful, ready to branch like a wise owl. Really beautiful. Thank you, Eva. Okay, so our next session will be with Malix and Gemma, and they will be talking about signals in context using cultural affordances to create futures.